Happy August. Welcome to Let's Talk About You. I am your host, Camilla Francis. It's always an honor and a privilege to be here with you. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. We're here live today with my co producers, and we're going to have a great show like we've been having for season 6. We've been on target, we've been on point. And today we're going to talk about friendships. You know, um, like TLC had the song. Let's talk about your friends. I won't sing it, but we're going to talk about our friends. And according to recent studies, Crystal did our research. The United States is experiencing what we're calling a friendship recession. You think it has anything to do with COVID? Do you think it has anything to do with modern technology? Who knows? But it just found that adults have found themselves at a higher percentage of not having close friends. And that has risen tremendously, especially with the male friendships. It was an interesting study to me because I was like, really? And, I just want to say that we're going to be diving into the fascinating and sometimes complex world of friendships, because having a friend is a beautiful thing and beauty can sometimes be complex. And we'll be exploring the ins, the outs that we put together of setting healthy boundaries and considerable boundaries and more. And today, ladies, come on in the room. Come on in the room. I'm going to have Kiana and Crystal, my friends, my family, share their perspective and join me in this dialogue about friendship. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. Hey,
Hello.
ladies. Happy Sunday.
Happy
Happy
Sunday.
Sunday.
Today is definitely a Sunday hair day.
Is it? Or
Yeah,
hide your hair day?
it must be because we all have our hair wrapped or a hat. So today is the aesthetically pleasing friendship hair day. So we're already setting a trend. Here we go. Here we go. It only takes one to start the trend, right? We
Yeah.
definitely is starting it. So, ladies, we're going to be talking about friendships today. And, you know, I know you guys have friends. I have friends. I have lots of acquaintances. We all have different chemistry, different relationships that we sometimes intermingle. They go hand in hand, and sometimes they're separate and apart. And what do you think that someone who says, when we talk about friendships and the different types of friendships and navigating the expectations, because we've seen have things about high maintenance friends, low maintenance friends, but at the end of the day, let's truly talk about navigating different friendships and their expectations. How do we handle the varying types of expectations when it comes to friendships? Let's start with you, Crystal.
Oh, okay. So I think one of the things that I had to learn, because as I said in the last episode, I'm not like the best at, the following up, the keeping in touch, and all of that. So I think for me, it was understanding that friendships are also a relationship similar to partnership. So it's also understanding that level of love language, because even though you're not in a romantic relationship with your friends, you're still in a form of relationship. And just taking that in itself on that own singular note into consideration was something that I have now began to kind of put into more perspective, to be a bit more considerate of the relationships and the value that we exchange with each other. So I think the varying relationships comes from first auditing yourself, like what type of friend do I want to be, and then checking the relationships that you have in your life, and doing all the things that we're going to discuss in this discussion, but really just taking it at face value that this is a relationship and it may require more time than you might have anticipated, or neglected to think about in some forms.
I
Yeah.
like where you said that, we have to consider what type of friend that we want to have, because I definitely believe, and I know that it's true, energy is real. What you give out, you receive. And it's not about cliches, not saying karma is going, it has nothing to do with that. It's just
Right.
about the energy. What we think about, what we pay attention to more, that's what happens. And even if we don't think about it as is, it's true. So if we truly focus on the good of the people, you tend to attract that. And when you tend to think of, oh, I had a friend and they did bad, and this one is bad, and I can't trust people, and the bad, and the bad, the bad, you run yourself around more of the bad, the bad, and the bad. So
Absolutely.
I do agree with what you said and what it is that you preparing yourself for, what kind of friend I want or what kind of friend I want to be. Because at the end of the day, it does begin and end with you. What do you think, Akiana, with regards to how do we handle the expectations of friendship?
I agree with everything that both of you guys just said, honestly. And I also think that um, more of us should be okay with with understanding our place in certain friendships,
Yeah.
because in certain friendships you're going to be super close as your best friend, your ride or life as you like to call it, the person who's there for everything, you can go to for anything. Even if you guys don't live in the same place, you guys can, always have that sort of deeper connection. But then there's
Mhm.
going to be sometimes more casual friends where all you guys really do is go out together. Or there's going to be, friends that are situational. Oh, I go to XYZ event every Wednesday, so that's going to be my friend at that place. I think that seeking deeper relationships is always great, of course, but I think understanding what position you are in different friend groups helps you to
Mhm.
enjoy that space a little bit better and to know who to go to for what, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. And then
Yes.
that way that you don't, expend best friend energy into someone who is really more of an acquaintance, because you guys don't really have anything in common other than this one interest that you share.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that learning that and learning how to do that will make your friendships a lot more enjoyable and even seem like less work, even if you're still putting in the same amount of energy.
I agree with you with that. I totally agree. Um, And when we recognize these different types of friendships, like you do, you put them, not necessarily that we put them in different compartments, but at the end of the day, it's true. You know that you have this friend that likes to do this type of thing. You know that this friend will not be interested in doing that type of thing, and the like. And it's easy to gravitate to, but then it's also easy to recognize the differences. And then when we recognize the difference in the people that are around us, it also sets us up to be protected and not get our feelings hurt. Because too many times we just like to throw everyone in the pot. And then that's when we get our feelings hurt because this friend didn't or this friend doesn't. And, and then we end up in some types of friendship that doesn't necessarily match up. And I think sometimes that has to do with the fact that we don't understand where this person fits and we want them to fit in every aspect of our lives. What do you guys think about that?
Agreed.
I mean, I agree with that. I don't really think that there's much more to say on that point. I think you pretty much covered that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a space where um I think, sometimes we lean towards like people pleasing as well.
Mhm.
That gets mixed up in the midst of it, where you want to be all things to all men. Some people, then, if you have that character. And so you're just invitational, you want to be inclusive, you want to have everybody around. And then that just gets mixed up in the mess of it. And once you're being, and being inclusive is not a bad thing, but just being, um, aware then that everyone in that space isn't to the same degree or level of friendship that you need even or
Mhm.
want. I think that's actually where the mistakes we make with friendships, as Kiana said earlier. Sometimes we mix up acquaintances who are only in this particular space, and then mix them up into, all the spaces. And then you get yourself in problems because now they're privy to either information or things that they don't qualify to know. And that's when it becomes messy.
Yeah, it does. And you're right with that.
Yeah.
And one thing that, what we really need to do is communicate our needs. Because if we really want to be that friend, we need to put up those boundaries and articulate our needs. And sometimes we're not comfortable with ourselves with doing that.
Yeah.
But don't you guys agree that that will make a healthier relationship if we communicate our needs?
I
Well,
think
yeah,
it's, yeah.
sorry, go ahead first.
Oh, yeah, I was just about to say go ahead, but I think I was just gonna say that's sometimes easier said than done, because it's about not about what you say, but how the person receives it.
Mhm.
That is sometimes the ticklish spot on it, because everyone isn't open for a direct conversation or mature enough even to hear certain things. I've heard things about myself sometimes in with friends, and it took me maybe weeks before I could actually consume it and be like, oh, you know what? Maybe you're right. So I think it's one is the conversation is necessary, absolutely. But
Mhm.
um, the flip side of that is the reality of how we receive information and how we digest it and all of that. And then doing it in a way that is healthy enough, you
Mhm.
know, that we can still move forward after we hear sometimes it's always the difficult things. It's not the praises. It's
Yeah,
always the
growing
challenge.
pains. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree because it's always like you want to be honest because you want your friend to understand and respect your feelings and you want them to be able to be comfortable enough to, express their boundaries to you as well.
Hmm.
But also, you don't want to cause a rift in the friendship, especially if it's a new friendship, or if this is something that's been happening for a long time and you've let it grow to a point that now you're too afraid to say anything. So I understand I guess, the bit of fear and hesitancy to tell people what you want. But I think that's kind of what makes those deep friendships so deep is that you guys are able to come to an understanding, even if you have to argue it out at first, even if you have to work out the kinks at first. Communication isn't always going to start out it should, but it doesn't always start out in the healthiest of ways. But being
Mm.
able to see someone and stick through them through all kinds of emotional roller coasters and stuff because you know that they have your best interest at heart, I think that that's an important part of building a lasting friendship. So I think it's important, but I also think it's incredibly difficult, and I understand why people are a little bit nervous to do that.
Hmm.
Well, I understand it myself because, I had this past week was my birthday and I had a phenomenal week. I even had a party last night. And the great thing is, my girls, they're great. And we've had some growing pains
Mhm.
because we started out as me mentoring their kids as a Girl Scout leader. Then we started an organization together. And that in itself was a roller coaster. And it took us through some growing pains. And now, they're truly my ride of life. And, when we were out for my birthday, they were saying something. I was like, I don't need you guys to keep blowing that beautiful air up my hoo ha. Tell me the truth. I can take it. I may not like it. I will admit, I may not like it, but I would prefer you tell me the truth and hurt my feelings a little bit instead of just try to boost up my ego because I would prefer healthy than just enabling. I don't
Mhm.
want that. I don't need you to enable me because trust me, the ego is big over here.
As is
So
the delusion, as according
yeah.
to what we've learned.
As we've discussed.
So, but and I told them that, and so I was like, I really love and appreciate our friendship, but I really need you ladies to put in the honesty there. I'm not saying that they're being dishonest. Not That's not what I'm
Mhm.
saying. I'm just saying sometimes the compliments are always coming. I was like, y'all have to tell me the truth sometimes. It can't be just that, you
Mhm.
know. and so I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
then, last night for my surprise, not so surprise party, which
Oh,
was cute. Yeah, it was supposed to be a surprise, but it happened that I kind of sort of found out, but it was great. It was good. Had a wonderful time. I went to someone else's party first and then I went to mine.
Oh,
So
sweet.
yes, August, I'm still celebrating. So August,
mm.
people, get over yourself. It just is what it is.
Oh,
Invasion.
whoa, that was so aggressive.
Exactly. And sometimes friendships can be extremely aggressive. That is my point. There's so many different ways that we can communicate. We could be the loving, we could be the enabling, we could be, because there's that one person. I've seen so many of those cute little memes and skits on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram that, the friends calling the friend and said, I need you to do something. And they're packing is like, what do I need to bring? And they have their backpack with their shovel and their hammer and their tools.
Right.
It's like, it's like, we're not going to speak of this. We're going to do what needs to be done no matter what.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Some days you kind of sort of need that friend. But most days, if I am bragging I'm wrong, tell Camilla she wrong. She may not want to hear it, but tell her she wrong.
Oh
We can't
boy.
enable bad behavior all the time. But
Mm.
but it is good to know that you guys willing to pick up a shovel for me.
You need both. You need both.
Yeah. There
But
has
I
to be
agree.
balance.
I agree. Sometimes the enabling can cross lines, and I
Mhm.
think that is the actual issue, because we want to be accommodating and we want to be, helpful, and then all of a sudden it starts to erode at the friendship because you're accommodating this even though you don't necessarily like it, and then it starts to pile up, like that shoveling under the rug scenario, where
Right.
you're waiting and waiting and you're hoping that they will change, but you're not really saying anything, so they don't know that you don't like this particular thing, or even if they do, because it comes so natural to the next person, it's not highlighted to them, because sometimes we're totally oblivious to our own mess, because we're in it, or we don't actually see it as mess, because we're not on the receiving end of it. So it's that balance between telling the person the truth without necessarily ripping them apart, because then that's the next side. I mean, I might know my truth, but I don't want to hear you say it every day. I get it. I hear you.
And there's a balance between that. You saying it every day. Are you saying it because you're sick of me? Are you saying it
Right.
because you think I don't know it? Are you saying it because why are you saying it so often?
Right. You gotta give, when does grace, where's the line between being holding someone accountable and then giving them grace? It's just such a blurred space, and we don't really know where that boundary is. And yeah, I guess we'll just have to do it until it doesn't. Until somebody communicates that it doesn't feel good, or maybe we should adjust. I think that's why I was asking myself, actually, if friends should have therapy. Like, is there therapists that deal with friends?
There
Because
should
Well,
be.
there's
this
a
is like
therapist that deals with
relationship,
everyting. So
right?
yeah.
There should be.
And
Can I
we're
bring
speaking
my
about
friends
that
into
that that
counseling?
thin line, like friendship maintenance versus obligation. Do you
Mm,
sometimes feel that?
yeah,
You know? There's
yeah.
sometimes a thin line between maintaining a healthy relationship and feeling burdened by it.
Hmm.
And it's usually a delicate dance. And just like you're saying, how many times are you going to tell me about my bad behavior? Is it because I'm not understanding? You didn't think I heard you? Are you saying
Mm,
it to hurt me? Am I being a problem to you?
hmm.
There's a balance and a dance between the maintenance of the friendship or the feeling I feel obligated. I feel like I have to. But
Mhm.
but we really don't want to feel overwhelmed by maintaining the friendship or overwhelmed by being obligated to this friend. And
Hmm.
how can we strike a balance? How can we strike a balance between harboring the negative and feeling towards friends?
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know if I'm in the position to give anybody advice.
But
But
it's what we all are talking from our perspective.
right.
Right.
So personally, I would just be like, sometimes maintaining a friendship is, even if you don't want to do something, you know how much it would mean to that person to be there for them. And it's
Mhm.
not something that you're morally opposed to. It's not something that like you really don't disagree with. You might just not be in the mood, but you know that this is important enough where you have to show up. That to me is maintenance. I feel like obligation is when a lot of times it goes against your moral compass. You don't, that's not something you would ever do if unless you're with this person, but because you know how intense this person is, you feel like they have to do it, like you have to do it for them. Or if it's something that's like not a huge deal, like say it's your friend's cousin's baby shower and you're like, I'm not really in the mood to go. Usually a maintenance friend will be like, yeah, that's fine. But the obligation friend, you'd be like, even though I don't know this person, I feel like I would have to go because she takes everything so personal if I don't do it.
Mm.
So that to me is the difference between maintenance and obligation, where maintenance you might not want to do it, but it's something important enough where you will do it. And obligation is something that you're just like, it usually shouldn't matter, but because it's this person, you feel like if you don't go, it'll make a whole thing.
Right, right. There's always that added layer of consequence in some ways.
Mhm.
Like you're just trying to be, just trying to keep your peace in some ways. Like you don't want to get into that space of obligation, because then there's some repercussion that will just make it even messier. So you're trying to like avoid the mess. And I feel like
Hmm.
that's like that sign that we need to have a conversation because we going left. If I'm not comfortable enough to say, hey, today I'm really not up for it, and you just understanding that, in all any other case I would have been there, but just not
Mhm.
today.
Yeah.
If that isn't like a common understanding between parties, I feel like we've gotten into a really bad or unhealthy space.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do understand.
Go ahead, Kiana.
On the flip side of that, though, I think that's kind of where the loneliness epidemic kind of
Mm,
comes in, because a lot of times I feel like it is incredibly important to know I can't do this right now. I'm not in the space to do that and have a friend who is okay with that. But I feel like a lot of times
mm,
people don't even want to put the work into maintaining a friendship, not being, obligated to a friendship, but just they're just like, I don't want to. So even though like she's graduating with her PhD, I'm really not in the mood to go. So I'm just not going to go. I feel
right.
like that is kind of contributing to it, because although we have a big focus on self-care, which I think is incredibly important, I think sometimes people steer away from the care part of it into just like, I only care about myself, not I'm putting myself first, but the only person I care about is me. And I think that that's
Mm,
kind of where that can come in. And the fact that we have social media and we're able to talk to people at wherever they are, you're seeing sometimes your friends less and less in person. And you're like, I'm talking to my friends every day. Why do I
right.
still feel lonely? Or I'm talking
Hmm.
to this, and it's because in
We need
person
touch.
relationships are important as well. So
Yeah.
even if you have a long distance best friend, it's still important to have physical friendships that you can do tangible things with and sort of combat that loneliness. But I feel like a lot of people are just like, I have so many friends, I
Mm,
should be fine, but not really if you're not able to see them in person or do things with them together. So
yeah.
I think that that is a big contributor to why a lot of people feel so lonely, even though we're more connected than ever, or whatever.
And you're
Yeah.
right. There is a cliche there, but it is true because even though we're more connected, we have more accessibility to speak to someone far away. Right here is a perfect example. I'm in the Virgin Islands. You're in your stateside, and Crystal is in Holland. Yet we're here connecting and having a conversation all at once, and which
Hmm.
is great. I mean, that
Yeah.
makes
Mhm,
technology phenomenal.
mhm,
But I know that having a hug, that human touch, that so makes a difference. And I
Mm,
know I love to give hugs. I'm a hugger. And it started out just because I truly enjoyed the touch. And when I hugged someone, I was giving them love or I wanted them to feel good. And comforted. So, some people would say I give great hugs, and I am intentional about the hugs because I do want you to feel good. I do
Mhm.
want you to feel loved. I do want you to feel thought of. There's some people that don't want to be touched or need that the personal space because they don't know what your intentions are. So there's just so many different dynamics. And sometimes you really don't know where to fit or where, because it's like, truly,
Yeah.
what do I do? You
Yeah.
know, I want to, but I really don't want to. I feel like I should, but because of what's going on with me, oh, she's gonna feel bad. He's gonna feel bad. I should do this. So it's like I feel like I'm giving, but yet depleting. I'm giving,
Mm.
but yet I'm depleting,
Yeah.
and and it's a lot. It could be a lot,
Hmm.
but to have a friend, you have to be a friend.
Hmm. And I think that that sense of depletion sometimes comes from overextending the giving,
Mhm.
because you're not being replenished, and of course each of us needs to have our own wholeness in ourselves. So that's where that self-love and things come from. But in the same breath, like once we start giving and we sharing space with others, we need to have like that mutual sewing back into ourselves. And when we don't have that, or there's some, yeah, you don't have to get it back in the same way because everybody's different, obviously. But yeah, once you're not getting back something, you're gonna feel depleted, because you're not getting the same level of energy and love and compassion back to yourself. So you just feel like you're giving, 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 whether it's emotionally or any other leads. Yeah, eventually, if there's not a mutual exchange between you and your friends or relationships that you have, you get into that depleted state. And for someone like myself, I'm not a high touch person, but I know, well, I'm not a high touch person with just generally, I have my people. So I feel like you get access to that space, and then I don't have you or the person near me for a long time. Eventually I feel depleted because now I'm not hugging everybody, and then I don't have my people next to me as well. So then yeah,
I'm
I
sending
find
you a
myself,
hug.
yeah, yeah. I actually found myself telling a friend, and this was maybe 2 years ago at this point, but I said to her, "We're not Facebook friends," because she was like, "Oh, but I sent you a message on Facebook or I posted on your Facebook page," and I'm like, okay, so you were waiting for Facebook to make the announcement that my birthday happened, and you're sending birthday wishes on Facebook. I'm like, I appreciate your post, but at the end of the day, we're not necessarily Facebook friends. You could call, like, um, pick up a phone. If even if for friends that are very far apart, I feel like, and again, me saying that, uh, me that never calls, but anyway, yeah, you should pick up the phone and make a call if you want to, like, send a birthday wish and things like that. At least be intentional about connecting in some way, shape, or form. And then I'm correcting myself again because I'm not the
But that
best.
also brings us to the other point about communicating your needs, your
Mm,
changes, your boundaries. Because at the end of the day, let's be real, life isn't standing still. We're
mhm,
growing every day. We're changing every day. Our environment changes. Last week
mm,
it was July, and now we're 3 days in a whole new month. And as we face our challenges and our priorities shift, our life change, and life is lifing, and
mhm,
friendships are impacted too. Because as our life changes, some friends may not fit the box. And it's not like we're saying we don't want them around, but they're just not in that space of our life right now. And, what worked yesterday may not be what worked 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even 3 months ago. And what's not working today, and vice versa. But here's the key: we have got to talk about it. And that's what we're doing here. And let's talk about you. So join a friend, share this, and let's get the dialogue going because this is a live show. So we want you, our listening audience, as you're listening in, putting your little pointers of what it is that we're saying about friendships and communicating your needs and boundaries of the like, or even something we didn't touch that you think that we should talk about. talking about setting respectable boundaries in our friendship, it is so necessary. It is so necessary for everyone to feel comfortable and safe and seen and valued. It is so important. And what's also important, one of my childhood friends, I in April, I went in and I did her wedding for her in Atlanta. And she happens to be here this weekend because she sent me a message to say, I'll be down at the end of the month to celebrate your birthday with you. And I was only able to see her Friday. I saw her for literally 5 minutes today because she was going out to do other things, and she wanted me to come. I was like, as much as I would love to spend time with you, I have my obligations that I have and commitments to myself. Let's talk about you. And I just needed some downtime before I did anything. Could I have spent that downtime with her and having a good time? Absolutely. But would I feel rushed and frazzled and even more exhausted? Yes. So I needed to get myself right because, I
Mhm.
mean, I haven't seen her in a while and I love her to pieces, but I couldn't because I know I wouldn't be good to myself. So that's some of the things that sometimes we have to, and that's one example, but I'm just saying how important it is to communicate your needs and setting boundaries because as life shifts, it doesn't change my love for her, but I need to let her know. No, our friendship hasn't changed, but I just have acquired and made other obligations and commitments to myself, for
Mhm.
myself. And I can't do the things that I would love to do sometimes, or I used to do, because I don't have that
Mhm.
time, or I'm
That's
not in that space.
yeah. It's
And we also need to remember honoring your boundaries shouldn't push people away, but it actually should invite them to come into because they see once you set that healthy boundary for yourself, not that they shouldn't ask you or want to do things for you, but they understand that you have other things going on.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. The boundaries is mm, I think in the past I would have been, let's say in my 20s, then I would have been the type to let relationships die a natural death. So I'm not communicating a boundary. I'm not saying, well, this is the reason because I want to focus on business and I don't want to party anymore, for example. So you have that transition of your party friends. At least I had a big transition from that. So I had the clubbing party life friends who we could party every night of the week and we could do all the things. And then transitioning to like, okay, maybe this isn't the healthiest way to live, where you're up until 3 in the morning and then still have to go to work at 8 a.m. and doing this
Why not?
repeatedly. I mean, why not? When I was 19. Why not when I was 19, but not
I
when
was
I
doing
was
that when I
25
was
to
30, but anyway,
bless the Lord. By the time I hit 24, I was like, okay, we can't do this anymore. I'm tired.
well, I
So
must say I did better than you then.
no, I often say the Lord found me because He had to come get me out of the club. I think He saw the trajectory. Yeah, so He was like He put up His own boundary. So there was that. Um, but then kind of coming to like entering my 30s, even you find that even now I don't know if I've communicated boundaries in a way that how we're talking about it now, where you sit someone down and say, hey, this is where I'm headed, this is what some of my priorities are at the moment, I might not be available, blah blah blah. I don't think I've ever taken the time to actually do that with anyone for that matter. So not even just friends but family and everything else, apart from my mother, of course. But I think that that is a very healthy way to handle relationships so that it doesn't feel to anyone in the relationship that you're neglecting them or you're doing something or you're no longer appreciate them or like them or whatever it is, because then the assumptions is the worst part of it. It's the assumption that I no longer want to be around you, or I think that you're unhealthy for my life or whatever it is, because that might not be the case. It's just that my priorities shifted and I needed to do XYZ for my life. So I think one of the things, even in this discussion, and in preparing for like the next phase of my life, is considering one, friendships as something that to build a more healthier relationship around friendships, and in addition setting boundaries but communicating those boundaries.
Yes,
um
communication is definitely key.
I think that
yeah.
that's a great takeaway, but I also think that for some relationships, it is fine to let it die a natural death, in my opinion. Because, like, I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with what you were doing. I mean, it depends obviously on the situation.
Exactly.
Um,
Everything has its balance. Everything has,
exactly. So I
it's
think that
nothing is set across the board.
right. So I think that for some situations, it is okay to sort of naturally let it phase out. And even in
Hmm.
that process, you might realize that you're putting in, like we were talking about earlier, you were putting in more effort than they were putting in. If you stop calling, and by you stop calling means that you never have a phone conversation, that means that you are putting in, 90% of the effort into this situation. If that person
Right.
doesn't call you once, doesn't text you once, then you understand sort of where you stand in that relationship. I'm not saying test your friends. I'm not a big, test your friends, test your partner person. But I do think that sometimes naturally letting things phase out could also give you clarity about where
Mm.
your relationship stands at the moment.
True.
I agree. At the
That is
beginning of the year, I had to do that as well. I had to decide I love you, and it's okay to just love you from apart. But we're done.
right. Hmm.
We're done.
Hmm.
So it
Yeah.
there is no anything set across the board. But at the end of the day, we do, if you want something bad enough, you have to decide how you're going to deal with it. And having these uncomfortable conversations, and having setting a boundary is wonderful, but it could be scary and it could be uncomfortable because you don't want to hurt the person's feelings. And you may think, how am me setting a boundary hurting your feeling? That's best for me. True, but not everyone knows how to communicate that boundary. And or just saying that I need to do something else.
Listen.
So we really need to be a friend to ourselves so we
Yeah.
could truly be a friend to someone else. And I know Kiana also mentioned about being selfish. There is that point that you get to the point, I don't want to be bothered. I don't want to do that. No one should be offended. I don't want to do that. But there's also, we need people. People need people. Even though we want to say we can do it alone, we can't. Even if it's a stranger that supports you, we truly can't do this alone. And God is a relationship God, and He wants us to have a relationship. We don't have to have 20,000 friends. We don't even need to have 20. We don't even need to have 10. But God is still a God of relationship, and He wants us to have someone in our life. So there is that. I know that there's a comment. If someone see what that comment says, I
Yes,
can't see.
afternoon, Auntie Etty. That's just Auntie Etty saying good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So, but we definitely need to invite love in our lives. And we have to start with the love of self. And
Yep.
when someone see how we treat ourselves, they can get an idea how it is that how where they fit and how to treat us. You know what I'm saying? We have to start with self. We truly have to start with self.
Yeah. And that's it. Can I call her auntie too?
Yes, you
So
can call her Auntie Etty.
vicariously. No, she's saying be a friend to yourself first, and that's wisdom. And that's really true that finding friendship within yourself, like liking yourself, I
Mhm.
think is a healthy place to start,
Mhm.
because I think I feel like coming into this last year, I don't know, there's a lot of self reflection going on my end of the world. Um, but it's that space to redefine like who Crystal is and what she values, and what are the things that make her happy, and how what types of relationship I even want to have with myself first, and then with others. I think for us, as humans, oftentimes we don't even necessarily take the time to know ourselves. We're just
Yeah.
going with the flow. So whoever shows up, you have them around you, and whoever is there, you're just taking them along for the ride. And there's no real assessment of yourself and what you want and the quality of relationship that you want. So you don't know what it is, and so you can't invest in it, and you can't define it, and so you can't identify it. So you're just taking whatever comes, and I think that's an unhealthy place to be. So kind of going
Extremely.
through, as Kiana said, is not to critique your friends or to judge them in any way or to test them. That was your word. But it's really to assess, where am I at and what do I need? Because there are friends that drain you. I mean, it is what it is. There are friends that just you enter their space and then you immediately feel like you're gonna fall apart because
Yeah.
everything is just heavy around them. And while you can be a support system, because sometimes you are having a heavy day and that's okay, but if they are living in a space of forever being negative, forever being, a drain, forever looking at life in the worst ways, then maybe that might not be the healthiest space that you want to be in at this particular time in your life. So you're willing to support, but you're also protecting your own sanity in some ways. I think that that's something that I am being a bit more intentional about. Just not necessarily cutting people off, but more so saying, I need to be in a space where people are thinking about progress and growth and
Yeah.
development and laying legacy. And if that's not your plans for your life, I'm okay with that. But I just can't spend as much time with you because this is now my focus. So, yeah.
I wanted to share about, sharing's a point. That's also one of our questions is how to say I need more friendships or I need more space in a way to be honest. So this isn't really about friendship. This is, well, because I do think even though Kiana's my daughter, she's my friend. There was one day I was having a day, and I guess I was having days, not just a day. I was having days. And I know I've shared it before. And it got to the point and she was like, Mom, can you do me a favor? And I was like, yeah, after I'm there ranting, ranting, ranting. And she's like, can you ask me if I'm in the space to handle whatever it is that you want to say? And I was like,
Mhm.
but that
Right.
was the best thing that she could have said to me because one, I understood that even though I was having a moment, I didn't consider what moment or day she had.
Mhm.
And that made me truly value boundaries and value our relationship. Because so we've been saying from that point, I know that I want to vent. May I vent?
Mhm.
May I have 5 minutes? Are you in that space?
Yeah.
I had a day. Do you want to listen? And it's either yes or give me some time or I will call you back or a combination of all the above. But
Yeah.
I understand it's not just regurgitate because it just happened to me now. And even though it's at the tip of my tongue and burning because I need to say it, I need to understand she or whomever else need
Mhm.
a moment because they may not be in the headspace to receive. They may be going through their thing. And even if they're not going through anything at all, they may not just be in that space to want to hear it. And that should be fine. And that's one of the importance of setting a boundary and
Mhm.
setting space and being honest with yourself and loving yourself enough for that person to understand I need my space too. I don't necessarily want to take on your baggage. I don't have any baggage. I don't have anything going on, but I'm not really ready to hear your thing either. And that should
Yeah.
be okay. But it really was like but it was the best thing that she could have told me. The best thing. So thank you, Key.
You're welcome. Yeah. No,
And
but as the old people say, like there's a time and place for everything under the sun. Uh,
yes,
and
yes.
this might just
And the
might not be
children would
that
lead
time.
them.
Yeah.
Yes. And she led me.
I was like, am I the
Yes.
children in this scenario?
You absolutely are.
Oh, okay.
You absolutely are. That you're the child that led me, because I understand that, and it made me, even in my other relationships, I have been honest enough to tell them I'm not ready to hear that, or I'm not in the space now. I've been
Mhm.
able to make that expand outside of you and my relationship.
Mhm.
So yes, you definitely led me. And and speaking about that, have you've been in any of you can answer this, in experience something negatively by setting a boundary, or having someone set a boundary with you? Has it impacted you positively, negatively, a combination of both?
Mm,
Mm,
mm, mhm,
I don't
mhm.
really know. I mean, I definitely have had arguments with my friends before.
Yeah.
I don't know if setting a boundary has caused like an irreparable rift. I feel like by the time I was old enough to think about boundaries in my friendships, I was already pretty set on what I wanted and what I didn't want. So all of the people I probably would have set boundaries with, like I'm not friends with them anymore because I
Right.
learned about boundaries much later. So by the time I was setting them, I think I was like, no one really said anything about it.
Mm.
But at least you got a head start, because you're still in your 20s. I started figuring it out in my 40s. So
Talk about
kudos
it.
to you.
It's like, because I don't think I've heard boundaries until I hit my 30s. So there's that. But I think even with the kind of like natural death of some relationships, it was the the boundary became, I feel like, especially when the boundary is religious, it's always this stigma around it. So I had quite a bit of that where
Me
it wasn't
too.
necessarily positive because, oh, you and this thing, right? Which in some ways is technically painful because you have these relationships that you've cultivated from a child, and you
Mhm.
kind of go through, all your life with some relationships being present, and then you go through this transition that you made a healthy choice for yourself, like this is what I want to do and this is how I want to lead my life, and then you go through the pain of losing in some cases majority of your friends, especially if they're not in that same lifestyle. So yeah, I would have went through that in my 20s, kind of transitioning to being like almost a loner for quite a long time until I, got church friends, as they call them, as other people would call them, but being in circles where more spiritual people are involved, and then feeling this sense of disconnect in the early days where you're not necessarily communicating with others because they feel like they can't communicate with you, or you with them because there's a difference in like priorities, language choices, all of these things. So there was a phase of that in my life, and that only happened in my 20s, and I haven't necessarily gained back any of those friends, but I feel like we're in a place where we can hang out, where it's not super, I don't want to say it's not super spiritual because I feel like early Christianity would have been like, oh, cut all of this off completely because you can't intermingle with these kinds, just for
So
lack of
that's
a better
more
word,
religion, and
right?
anyway, we won't go into that, more
We
cult
won't.
minded. Yeah.
But also
Uh,
finding your own definition of spirituality and where that fits well for me, then kind of opened me back up to a lot of relationships, and not all of them, but more so the ones that I was interested in, right?
Mhm.
So the friends that I really treasured coming up from my high school days and onward, I circle back to them, and we kind of cultivated really strong relationships that we have carried on till now, which I appreciate. But there was a rift in that time because we were both trying to figure out where our commonalities might be, without, you know, guilting the next person or accusing the next person of their beliefs and their boundaries. So one, them respecting my boundaries, and then me also kind of not being the judgmental kind. Neither I was never the judgmental kind, but just the perception that I would become the judgmental kind because of my association. Yeah. So I went through some of that. And I don't think, as Kiana said, after this, I don't think I had any boundary set that created any other rift. I think spirituality was the biggest one. And that's a divider in itself. So
It
yeah,
is. It is. You
it is
know,
what it
for
comes
a
with the
long time in my life, I've always been closer to males than females. And one group, Auntie Ettie's online, that has, she started out as my hairdresser and then went into being a friend, my co-prayer warrior, teaching me how to pray. Um, and we weren't religious sisters. It was truly spiritual. It was her helping me grow with my spirituality, and we bonded on that. I told her what my difference in my beliefs were, and she shared hers, and it was always a non-judgment zone. But the one thing that we have in common, we're some powerful prayer warriors. And she had a group called Woman to Woman, and we met on the Fridays, and it was just a group of women sharing life experiences, and it was a truly non-judgmental zone. And me and a lot of those women were really close to today, and we build that bond from woman to woman because not because we know some of each other's secrets, but because it was truly a non-judgmental zone. These women were I would say Christians, and there were some that weren't. But at the end of the day, it was a good balance that it was like, oh, she ain't a Christian, so why is she in this group? Or no, it was,
Mhm.
you are a woman, you have an experience, the experience that you're having are related to some of the things that happen scripturally. Let's talk about it. Let's pray about it. Let's pray for and with each other. And that was empowering. It was inspiring. It was uplifting. It was comforting. And that opened up a whole new world for sisterhood. So that was truly a great way to open up ourselves. And because you mentioned about spirituality, and I know it could be some rips because I could write a book about the
Yeah.
church, but we're not talking about that today. We're talking about
Mhm.
It's up, my friends. And I
Mhm.
think that that's the beauty of it too. Once you set certain boundaries, it opens you up to new friendships, which is
yes,
something that you're saying. So sometimes your boundary leads you to your tribe. And if you don't set a boundary, you never get to experience new people because the
yes,
new person will not intermingle necessarily really well with past relationships that you have or unhealthy relationships that you have. So the phrase that was used several times was like necessary endings. So sometimes it's just necessary to set a boundary, hoping in some ways that we can create some mutual respect around it. It's not always the case, but in the end, knowing that you're being true to who you are in the moment,
yes,
what you need, so that you can open yourself up to new experiences, new relationships, new everything. Because there's always a new connection that is built on the back end of allowing yourself to grow and allowing yourself to see other things and experience other things. So there's benefits
absolutely.
in it.
And we could talk about the ins and outs and get into the point of letting go. When is the time to let go? But we kind of spoke about it's okay to just let things just die a natural death because of and that's always healthy because there's a balance with everything. Nothing that we said here is the way you should or shouldn't treat a friend. It's just perspective,
Mhm.
conversations, and food for thought. Because a lot of things that we talk here about, and let's talk about you, is to create dialogue and conversation with yourselves and among your loved ones, your friends, and things that you may have overlooked or not necessarily taken for granted, but not really thought of. But it's like, we should. I haven't thought about it that way. It's
Hmm.
all about creating dialogue to make all of us better human beings, to take us from where we are to where it is that we need to be. And that's my mantra um, in this life. Life is lifing. We need people. We need that relationship. We need that friendship. And even if that friendship is intertwined, that my sister is my friend, my daughter is my friend, my hairdresser turned my sister to my sister friend, whatever it is, my friend that's a male ended up being one of my greatest friends that threw me a birthday party, whatever it is. It's good to have friendships, but it's good to be honest with yourself with what it is that you expect. And it's great to know as you have a friendship, you have to grow. You want to grow. And sometimes you don't grow together, you grow in different directions. And we really need to be okay with that. We really need to be okay with that
Yeah.
because we all grow. Every single moment is an opportunity to grow and do something differently. And we always can't take the people that we know when we were 12 with us when we're 53. And who we knew when we were 53 can go on for the long haul, or it can go past 3 months. And we should understand it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. So, what is my call to action? What are some of my takeaways? Boundaries are important. It's okay to have friendship die a natural death. Communication is key. You have to talk. But my greatest takeaway is you have to be a friend to yourself first. Kiana, what's some of your takeaways?
Um, I would say that my biggest takeaway is always being your authentic self, the same way being a friend to yourself first. Always being your authentic self and don't,
Mhm.
feel pressure to do things that you're not comfortable doing it. Not because you're like, oh, I'm scared to try this new thing, but because like if you're morally opposed to it, don't feel pressure to do something. It's okay for someone not to be for you and for you not to be for them. The more authentic you are, the greater chances you have of finding authentic friendships.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Crystal?
I think one of the things that I'm taking away from the conversation and even highlighted even more for me is assessment, assessing where you're at, know, knowing what you need, and then you can really define these boundaries. Then you can really define who you need for this season of your life and who is what is beneficial for your growth, and then not in a selfish way like it's only about you, but
Mhm.
in a way that is healthy. Because um one of those things is what we don't say we can't address. So if I can share with my friends, well, I took the time to think about what I need in this season and this is what I want. Your friend can also show up for you in a new way that you might not even know they could. And so I think spending enough time to reason with yourself and get comfortable with yourself as a friend and saying, okay, well, this is the type of person that I want to be is important to any relationship, because we're showing up fully, as Kiana said, authentically, but you have to know yourself before you can do that. And so yeah, spend some time, just audit yourself. I think we're not doing enough. Personally, I think we're not doing enough self-evaluation and being our own critiques, and not in a negative way like, oh, I'm terrible, or I'm this and that, but more so just to know what we want, know who we are, and kind of communicate that with our community. Yeah.
Yes, with our community. And even though we're adults, I believe we all need village, and the village deals with our incorporated with our friends. And even those that may not like us too much. That's a part of our village because that you can build growth.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I encourage our listening audience to reflect on things in your life to nurture your friendship, to nurture what's important to you, what it is that you want from a friend, how you've been a friend to someone else, and just build your village, build your community, because you're deserving of that. You're deserving of everything that is good and rich and encouraging, empowering, and help you grow. I love this.
That,
I truly love this conversation. Ladies, thank you. It's
thank you.
always great. I can't believe it's been an hour or so already for us to come together in one accord and have a conversation that's so rich and empowering. Um, and I won't say it deals with the little things, but it really deals with the important things because having a friendship and being a friend is an important thing. Thank you
Mhm.
guys, our listening audience, for joining us here this Sunday. And as I say to you, stay blessed on purpose.
Bye. Your dream come to life. That is the mission behind Kiki Creations. We're more than a decorating service. We put our all into taking in every detail of your vision and transforming that into breathtaking events. Whether you're celebrating a wedding, retirement, throwing a massive gala, or having an intimate dinner, let Kiki Creations create the moment of your dreams. Celebrate love, laughter, and the moments that really matter with Kiki Creations.